Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale,
Dear distinguished delegates, I stand before you today, April 30th, 2020, President of the French Republic,
c'est un honneur pour moi
to express my deepest apologies to the African nations and peoples who were affected by France's colonial past.
et à cet instant je pense à ceux qui se sont
We recognize the harm and damage caused by our actions, and we are committed to making amends for the wrongs committed during that period.
In a world where apologies are used as bandages to cover deep colonial wounds, one African leader has done the unthinkable. He didn't smile. He didn't bow. He didn't accept. And a mere diplomatic illusion to continue controlling Africa behind closed doors. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary president of Burkina Faso, has rejected the European Union's formal apology, calling it too little, too late. Yes, you heard that right. The European Union thought a carefully crafted letter, drenched in polished language and laced with strategic flattery, would be enough to regain favor in Ouagadougou. But Captain Traoré isn't playing the old colonial game. He stood tall, looked them in the eye, and said, Burkina Faso does not need empty words. This is the thunderclap of a generation rising, a generation that refuses to beg for dignity or trade its mineral wealth for crumbs. We need respect, sovereignty, and true partnership. Africa is not for sale. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new chapter in African resistance. The letter expressed regret for past colonial injustices, acknowledging the EU's silence during French exploitation, political meddling, and the recent backlash against Africa's push for independence. This isn't just another diplomatic standoff. Today on AfricVibe News, we break down the stunning moment Traoré rejected the EU apology, what it means for Burkina Faso, how it reshapes Africa-Europe relations, and why this could ignite a domino effect across the continent. This is not just Burkina Faso's stand. It's Africa's bold voice echoing from the Sahel to the shores of the Atlantic. An illusion, an insult to our intelligence and dignity. Buckle up, because after this story, you'll never look at African diplomacy the same way again. Earlier this month, the European Union sent an official diplomatic letter addressed to Burkina Faso's transitional government. The letter also offered support in rebuilding relations and expressed interest in re-engaging Burkina Faso through investment, trade partnerships, and humanitarian support. For many Western observers, this sounded like a step in the right direction. But for Ibrahim Traoré, it was a carefully veiled attempt to reset colonial control with friendlier words, slicker handshakes, and shinier promises. And your apologies do not pay for the blood, the gold, the uranium, and the suffering you took from us. He didn't mince his words. He called the apology. It was a revolutionary message to the entire continent, a distraction, and resource industries, and strengthened ties with countries like Russia, China, Turkey, and neighboring African allies. In a public broadcast that reached across Francophone Africa, he reminded citizens of Burkina Faso that Burkina Faso, once seen as a dependent nation, is now a symbol of resistance, leading Mali, Niger, and others in the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. Real change doesn't begin with apologies. It begins with justice, reparations, and a clear end to exploitation disguised as diplomacy. In an urgent press conference aired live on state TV, Traoré tore through the EU's apology with sharp clarity. He refused any new aid deals that came with strings attached. He reaffirmed Burkina Faso's withdrawal from all neo-colonial military and economic treaties. He called on other African nations to reject symbolic apologies and demand real political and economic freedom. We are no longer colonies. We are not under your command. This wasn't just a rejection. And his people? They cheered in the streets. Young men and women waved the Burkinabe flag, chanting Souveraineté ou rien. Sovereignty or nothing. Let's step back. Why did the European Union apologize now? Since 2022, Burkina Faso has taken dramatic steps to expel French military forces, reclaim control of its gold. The hashtag #Traoré trended on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The country froze EU and French influence in key sectors, including banking, security, education, and mining. This created a vacuum that EU leaders could no longer ignore. Facing global embarrassment and rapidly declining influence in West Africa, the EU likely saw an apology as a diplomatic reset. But for Ibrahim Traoré, it was simply too late. According to official reports from the Burkinabe Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Traoré's office returned the EU letter with a response outlining non-negotiable conditions for any future cooperation, and all covert and overt support for destabilization in the Sahel. Publicly acknowledge France's historic crimes, not just in Burkina Faso, but across Francophone Africa. Offer real reparations, financial, infrastructural, and technical. Respect Burkina Faso's right to choose its allies, including Russia and China, without interference. He ended the letter with the now-viral phrase, "Don't apologize for the past. Repair the future." The shockwaves from Traoré's rejection didn't stop at Burkina Faso's borders. In Mali, social media lit up with support. Niger's military government praised Traoré's courage and echoed his calls for sovereignty, justice, and independence from Western control. Even in non-Francophone nations like Ghana, Uganda, and South Africa, analysts and civil society groups commended Burkina Faso's uncompromising stance. In Ethiopia, one youth activist tweeted, "Controlled the resources, controlled the politics, controlled the apologies." Traoré speaks for every African tired of being treated like a beggar. We want trade, not pity. We want dignity, not debt. Will the people reject crumbs and demand the cake they baked? This is the Africa rising, unapologetic, unchained, and undivided. It's clear, Ibrahim Traoré is not just a transitional leader. He's becoming a symbol of African defiance. Since taking power in 2022, he has nationalized critical industries like gold, limestone, and agriculture, built free housing for internally displaced citizens, expelled foreign troops, including French forces, from Burkinabe soil, strengthened ties with African and Eastern nations over traditional Western allies, launched Pan-African education projects, including military and industrial training for youth. And now, he's challenging Western diplomacy itself, demanding it evolve from elite boardrooms to honest, respectful partnerships. If the EU and the West fail to listen, they may soon find themselves completely irrelevant in a new African century. AfricVibe family, let's be clear. This moment isn't just about one man or one apology. It's about rewriting centuries of unequal relations. For too long, Europe has controlled the narrative. But now, Africa is taking back its pen, and Traoré is writing in bold letters. His message? Respect us, work with us, but never again rule us. So the question is, will more African leaders follow his example? Will the African Union rise to defend its members' dignity? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, the age of African submission is over, and the age of African sovereignty has begun. If you found this story powerful, informative, and inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you agree with Traoré's decision to reject the EU apology? Should other African countries demand reparations instead of apologies? This is AfricVibe News, where Africa tells its story proudly and powerfully. Until next time, stay bold, stay informed, and stay sovereign.